สวัสดีครับ I'm Point from ค้นพบ Last week we talked about active listening and how this can be a very powerful tool for building and working on or repairing or improving family relationships or any relationship for that matter. Today I want to continue on this topic and talk about the other side of the equation. So what happens if we have done our best to apply these active listening skills and techniques and we have summoned every fiber of our patience and it has been tested, but yet the other side just will not stop. The other side refuses to stop. Stop what? They will not stop blaming you. They will not stop judging you. They will not stop criticizing you, insulting you, calling you names, trying to get you to feel bad, trying to guilt trip you. The list goes on. Now, obviously, as I'm sure you can see, I think it would be fair to say that now this requires that we take it up a notch. This, therefore, now becomes an issue of setting boundaries. We have to learn to set our boundaries, put our foot down, and set the boundaries that this is the line that I'm sorry, I love you, I care for you, but you cannot cross this line. So, what are boundaries? Okay, let me present it like this. Would you agree with me that if we really think about it, we are only ever responsible for our own emotions, for our own feelings, and not that of other people? Right? In other words, we should not take too much responsibility for other people's emotions. At the same time, on the reverse, it is not our right to project our own emotional insecurities onto other people as well. See what I mean? So in other words, be responsible for yourself, put simply. Okay? Now, this implies that if you are thriving in life, if you are feeling powerful, feeling empowered, feeling happy and joyful, but the other person in this side of the relationship, say a relative, a family member, or a romantic partner, is feeling powerless, is feeling disempowered, is feeling unhappy, is feeling out of control, then yes, it is understandably important to show love and care and empathy and compassion, but at the same time, it is not healthy to take too much responsibility for their emotions. So I want to say that there's a big difference between the two, right? There's a big difference between showing care, love, compassion, and empathy versus taking responsibility for their emotions and their feelings of powerlessness. You see what I mean? This leads to the next point, that in order to start to get a bigger picture or a better, more clear understanding of what boundaries are and where it should be, think of it this way. Yes, indeed, our actions, our behaviors, what we say, do indeed affect other people, those around us, to greater or lesser extent. But what we want to be able to do here is we want to be able to take a step back and gain perspective on the situation, see the bigger picture, and really ask yourself, okay, this accusation that the other side is trying to blame you on or trying to make you feel guilty and bad, what part of it really has to do with some action or behavior or thought that or wordings that I said that were perhaps over the line? What part of it really has to do with that? And therefore, yes, I can fix that. I can take ownership of that. I can take responsibility for that. I can work on that. Versus what part has more to do with that person's emotions, their insecurities, their issues, right? You see what I mean? First of all, I do apologize for the background noise in today's video. There's construction going on next door. But anyways, so take a step back, ask yourself, what part of this accusation really has to do with what I did wrong, whether I realized it or not, whether I intended to or not, And therefore, what can I do to really fix that and show my commitment to the relationship through my willingness to take responsibility for that? Versus what part of it is really about that side's emotional insecurities, lack of emotional self-control, and therefore they're just blaming you, insulting you, and that is not fair for you to take. You see what I mean? Here's another thought experiment to help you with this one, to see what should be and where should be the clear boundaries that you should not allow them to step over. Imagine you had somebody who you really look up to. This person which you bring to your mind represents somebody who has clarity, who has wisdom, who has patience, who is calm, who has compassion and kindness. It could be somebody who you know in real life, in person, or somebody who you may not know personally, but perhaps they are a public figure. Perhaps it's a cartoon or fictional character. Perhaps it's a religious figure, like perhaps a Buddhist monk or the Buddha or Jesus. Or if you're not religious, bring to mind anybody who you think about and are reminded of his or her kind-heartedness and empathy and compassion. Okay, bring that person to mind. And now imagine if you were to have this dispute with this person. The dispute that you're having with this other family member in this example, or somebody else. Replace that other person with this kind, compassionate, kind-hearted person. How would they deal with the situation if they feel that perhaps you did something that you need to take responsibility for? How would they communicate to you? You see that? They would probably communicate from a place of clarity, more wisdom, and they will communicate in a healthy, constructive way. Okay? So use that as a benchmark to see, as a model to see how the situation should be. And you will find out sooner or later how you should handle it and how you should set boundaries. Okay? So, for example, let's say I am angry at you and I'm insulting you, I'm calling you names, I'm judging you, I'm blaming you. See, that clearly shows that I'm not taking responsibility for my emotions, and therefore I'm essentially saying that I feel really, really bad, I feel really, really upset, really, really depressed, really, really heartbroken, and I can't cope, and therefore it's your fault, therefore you must take responsibility for it. When in fact what's happening is I'm just projecting my own emotions onto you. So how do we pay attention to this context and see more clearly, more quickly what's going on? I think that's a good question. So I think it is clearly reflected in the language that is used. For example, if I use language or words such as, you should feel guilty that you let your little brother down. Or, you make me feel really sad that you're not willing to take on your father's business, let's say. You're letting the family down by not taking on the family business. Okay, let's say, you're making me angry because you never reply to me and therefore you're making me angry. Or if I say, I feel really, really depressed, I would feel really, really, really heartbroken if you leave me or don't reply to me. Right? Do you notice that these statements, they have a particular charge to them? And that charge is a lot of emotional baggage that is being projected onto the other side. In this example, from me to you. You see that? So it is clearly reflected in language. The language shows that one side is not willing to take responsibility for their own emotions. And this helps us to be able to see where the boundary should be. Now, when we talk about boundaries, how do we set boundaries? Right? This can be also another topic in and of itself. Because why? Because it can have to do with many different reasons why it can be difficult to do this. Number one, it could be an issue of social confidence, where you don't feel confident or comfortable to speak up or speak your mind, which really ties into self-esteem if you think about it, because if you really understood and saw your inherent self-worth and self-value, then by definition, you would not fear if you lose their approval. Because these times, in these dynamics, the judging and blaming comes with a sense of threat that if you don't take responsibility for my emotions, then I will disapprove of you. You notice that? I will no longer approve you or validate your worth, and therefore, right, you must take responsibility for my emotions. Right? So if somebody has genuinely strong internal self-esteem that is not dependent on other people's opinions and validations, then this will help to guard us against other people's emotional baggage and emotional projections. And it helps us to be able to set the boundaries clearly and put our foot down. Okay? Or the reason why it could be difficult to set boundaries could be simply because of limiting beliefs, especially, say, in the context of Thai culture, where there's this kind of cultural conditioning where the children or the child is expected to take responsibility for the parents' emotions, because otherwise you would be a disobedient and unloving, ungrateful child, right? Or perhaps there's this social conditioning that has to do with the expectation that the older sibling has to take care of the younger sibling, right? When these things are nothing more than limiting beliefs as a result of social conditioning and social cultural norms and values. You see what I mean? So you want to be able to see this clearly in order to be able to gain perspective on it and challenge it. And when it comes to the issue of self-esteem, I want to go into it in today's video, but I've talked about it before in a previous video called Developing Your Self-Esteem, and also learning how to say no. So I think they go well together with this topic, so I put a link in my YouTube's description box. But for now, once you have clearly defined your boundary and set it, in order to be able to put your foot down confidently, it requires your own emotional self-awareness and coping skills, right? Because as I just briefly mentioned, oftentimes these dynamics come with a sense of threat that if you don't take responsibility for your sibling or your parents' emotions, then you're going to be bad and you're going to lose validation, you're going to lose acceptance, we're not going to approve of you anymore. You see that? So in order for you to be able to let that go and take the hit in the short run, in order to reset the boundaries, you must have genuine social confidence and self-esteem and know your worth, which ties into being able to cope with your emotions when the other side is going to remove that validation from you. In other words, it's about realizing that you never needed their validation in the first place to know your true worth and to be in your own alignment with clarity, with wisdom, with calmness, with understanding, with empathy. You never needed anybody else. This helps to guard against that. So this now becomes an issue of putting your foot down and challenging and changing limiting beliefs that drive one to previously have been taking too much responsibility for the other side's emotions. Okay, and I've talked about these limiting beliefs and how to overcome them in previous videos, so be sure to check that out too. But what I want to leave, or the main point that I want to communicate today, is simply these 3 thought experiments that help you to begin to ponder and contemplate on where you should set your boundaries with those around you, including and especially family members, right? Who perhaps you've tried your best to listen actively, to be patient with them, and to be open-minded with them, and to be understanding of them, but yet they're still blaming you and calling you names and insulting you. I want you to first begin to ponder and contemplate on where the boundary should be. Again, 3 small tips. Number 1, ask yourself, is it really true that I have to take responsibility for that person's emotions? And obviously, as we mentioned, of course it's not. We're only really responsible for our own emotions and feelings, not that of other people. And number 2, really reflect on the accusation. What part of this accusation really legitimately has to do with some action that you did or something that you said, versus what part of this accusation has more to do or really has to do with the other side's emotions and insecurities, right? And number 3, what would somebody who you look up to and respect as a kind-hearted individual, what would they say? What would they do? How would they handle the situation skillfully and constructively in a positive manner? And this helps you to define your boundaries. And then you must continue to develop on your sense of genuine self-worth, social confidence, and overcome those limiting beliefs, say these expectations from cultural norms for you to take care of the little brother or the little sister, or to please mom and dad because they're mom and dad, say in the context of a Asian culture, right? In order to overcome these, you must have a sufficient amount of emotional self-awareness and coping skills to realize that, wait a minute, your emotions do not have power to control you and that you're still in charge. And from that place, you begin to have stability and inner emotional strength. And from then, you can begin to challenge and change those limiting beliefs and redraw the boundaries and put your foot down to set them clearly. Okay? I hope this video was valuable for you. Do let me know what you think. I know this may be easier said than done, but I hope it inspires you to see the value of practice, because it's a long-term growth project that we are all on. And I'm continuing to learn about this myself too. So I invite you to take my hand and continue to learn along with me. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. It'll help me a lot. Please consider sharing the video, subscribing to my channel, and leaving a comment on what you think or what topic you'd like me to talk about next. Okay? Thanks for watching. I will see you next time. สวัสดีครับ